everybody. Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle related. Brought to you by the good people at 5-8, and is always available at jugdealers.net and jugdealers.shop.
Yes, you can also go to our Jug Club membership at jugclub.net now, so you can get there right away very easily. If you want anything else, you can definitely always go to our Jug Dealers page, and that'll get you where you need to go.
And that Jug Club gets you 20% off of nutrients, people, so come and get it.
Yes, and I've been continuing to put up additional exclusive content. I know Josh has a few things that are sitting in the barrel waiting to be put out there.
In fact, we might even do a smoking video. Gabe has a bunch of good strains on deck right now. Let's talk about it after the show.
I was going to say shout out to Levin on that.
Shout out to Levin on that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making that drop to Gabe, because obviously I get to partake in that, and it will it's always some good footage for the Jug Club members as well. So any of your stuff, obviously VIP growers list as well, where you can get exclusive discounts and that sort of thing. So yeah, you guys know what the deal is. We got samples, we got all that stuff, but really what we wanted to talk about, because really kind of a lot has happened. It's been actually, quite fast, and we've been to Berlin and back. So what a show there. And I think we'll probably do a full rundown on that. That was definitely, but as far as the whole Schedule 1, Schedule 3, we talked about that a few weeks back. We broke down the whole rescheduling and what's happening, but in reality, a lot's actually happening through that. But we did give the history. We talked about the 1970s Controlled Substances Act. So we did give a little bit of the history, but really we wanted to kind of go a little bit more and almost do a part 2, which wasn't intended. It's just so much has happened.
Yeah, the ball is moving.
The ball is moving
quickly.
Yeah. So we already did the history. So now it's essentially is, what does that actually mean? Where are we at now, and where things are going? So this is a follow-up episode of sorts. So anyway, this is also being that we're in mid-June at this point. This is staring everybody right in the face. This is happening at the end of the month. This is happening at the end of the month.
That was really the impetus to this episode, is that the scramble. It's like end of
Scramble's
the month. End of the month, there's deadline.
So really, as far as a quick show outline, it is, where do we stand right now? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the registration scandal.
Scramble.
It's a scandal scramble.
I hate to say it is kind of a scamble. You know what I mean? We're going to get age-gated on that one.
That is a Freudian slip. Anyhow, we're going to talk about the registration scramble, which we'll explain a little bit more fully what that means for rec and medical. And then also, again, like we said, the road ahead. So where do we stand?
DEA put in a 60-day window for that?
Yeah.
So,
and
craziness.
And the thing is, too, it's not only they put these windows in, but then what is some of this wording meaning? Even as we were putting this together and I was reading through the stuff, I'm like, dude, this is definitely like some lawyer lingo mumbo jumbo
and
shit.
They want you to pay through like PayPal or some app.
It's so weird.
It's like
which is the I won't, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it.
You're like,
I'll say it. They're the people that kicked us off. What the hell?
It's totally like it's fitting. When I see it, it's fitting.
I can't even.
I
couldn't believe it when I read that. So we're gonna really break down what did the April order actually do, also what it didn't do, which I think is what a lot of people maybe assume it did do, but it didn't do.
Yeah. Didn't legalize.
It didn't really. No. And then medical versus adult use, and really what that means and how that's been defined now, which may not be defined the way people thought it was. And then again, the scramble that we talked about, that is the 60-day window. What the hell does that mean? What does filing actually buy you? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What's this dual license thing? We don't know. We're going to break it down.
It's a scamble.
It's a scamble is what it is.
Pure scamble.
And then, the very soon road ahead, which isn't the full road ahead, but that'll be the June 29th hearing that we mentioned, which actually, as it turns out, may not even actually be June 29th. Although the hearing, it's so weird, dude.
They always push it. Something happens every time. And it's like, hey, we're going to do this. And then all of a sudden, it's like,
what does this fast track thing mean? Who is the opposition? Because Lord knows there's always an opposition. And the realistic timeline for the final rule, which, spoiler alert, is not actually June 29th. So
yeah, and then you have I was gonna say you have the November deadline.
Right,
at the end of
we'll
the
get
year,
into that. GRAMBO, if you can move that up a little bit, please. Again, we mentioned that we've already done the history, so today we're gonna do where we're actually at. Again, like we said, that update. So for anybody that did miss it, as of the April order, the medical cannabis. Let me specifically say, medical cannabis is federally Schedule 3. Yes. So it went from 1 to 3. That is not a rumor. That has actually happened. It did take effect. So
just medical, though.
Just medical,
not
though.
Recreational.
Just medical.
So
medical Schedule 3, that doesn't mean weed is legal. In fact, it's actually far from it. In some ways, it almost opens up more cans of worms than answers questions. So there is a federal registration window that we mentioned that is closing the back half of June because it is that 60-day window. So they announced it in April. And then we did say June 29th, but as we'll mention, there is conflicting dates, and even certain places says different dates. And so back half of June is kind of what we're saying. We're just calling back half of June.
And basically right now, if you're running a licensed medical shop, this is your right. You better wake up.
Definitely don't sleep on it. So things have gone from it's going to happen to it's happened. So what does that actually make? And that's actually happened in just a few weeks, which I think is really what's crazy, because most people assume, myself included, that anything that's a government decision like this has to take some time because it has to be voted on and all these other things, right? Maybe not.
Hey, man, I don't even know. All I know is things are happening quickly. You better keep your eyes peeled.
GRAMBO, can you move that up again, please? Okay, so let's reset this whole chessboard that has been put before us because the news cycles blew through this fast, and a lot of people really only caught the headline. April 22nd, the acting attorney general signed a final order, and it took effect immediately, which I didn't realize necessarily that kind of stuff could happen, but it moved two things from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. FDA-approved drug products that contain marijuana and marijuana that's operating under a qualifying state medical license. So it did two things, but both of them on the medical side. That is literally it. That's it. That's the full scope of it.
But that more happened there than happened in like 10 years.
I agree with that, but it's also like, just to be clear, that is the full scope. We could damn near end things and say, well, that's where we're at right now, because literally that's where we're at right now. However, the people that, I think the people that we assume that, or what got glossed over, or what we're assuming that got glossed over, was how they did it, which they used, and I had never really heard of this. This is the legal mumbo jumbo, and let me read this way, is they used a treaty compliance pathway tied to the single convention. These were words that were completely out of my...
So lawyers.
I don't know what's going on. So what that did was it allowed them to skip a years-long process. So it happened in a weekend instead of a decade. See, I was under the assumption things like that took decades. So let's actually walk through what that actually happened. But that for me was really surprising as we were putting that together. I'm going, what is this, treaty compliance pathway? And it's tied to this, the single convention. What the hell does that even mean? So as we can see up here, and thank you for bringing up that, the single convention on narcotic drugs 1961 is amended by the 1972 protocol, is the cornerstone of the international drug control system along the 1971 convention of psychotropic substances and the 1988 convention against illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. So what that says to me is basically they're having to still play the game for these international drug treaties, right? And so, wow.
Well, I would have never even thought about that. The fact that we put laws on other people, and now it's like, oh shit, now we want to do that.
It was definitely. We've actually,
this is interesting.
We had discussed this outside of the show before,
right?
With your friend from South Africa,
right.
With DeVille.
Right. Yeah, with DeVille.
And how does this work? Yeah, and I remember having this discussion loosely. So that all makes a lot of sense.
But that was a little bit out of left field. I go, wait a minute. And again, this is the important part of the show. It's not even what happened because we know what happened, but how the heck did they do it? Well, now you know, and now you can look into it a little bit more. So anyway, moving on, medical cannabis under a state license is now federal Schedule 3, right? So same category as Tylenol with codeine and anabolic steroids. That's basically the company we're keeping at this point. I mean, better than heroin.
I'll take two.
I don't even want to be the guy to say that because I've always been so anti-Schedule 3, but the reality is it is better than the company we were keeping.
We also see that, like, even, and we'll talk about, who's for it and who's the opposition, but even, one of the things with Normal's point is like, well, that's not the end, what I mean?
And rec weed's still federally illegal. Like rec weed.
Well, very much so.
still Schedule 1.
But here's that's very true. Now here's the practical big win, but again, it's only tied to medical. It's a 280E, which is a tax, right? So a tax write-off. So up to this point, anything and everything that was connected to cannabis, whether it's medical or adult use, you weren't able to write it off like a normal company
Crop
would.
Loss,
right? I mean, but even toilet paper, equipment, safety,
all the things. Yeah, no,
all the things.
The way a lot of people did it is they had a shell company that ran everything, and they could do as much as they could through it, but. Yeah.
So, and things were all taxed on gross profit before, completely on a gross profit with no account for, any, well, there was no.
Because back in the 70s, drug dealers were so brash, they were just writing this shit off on their taxes. They're like, screw it.
Not for nothing, Dab. I'm gonna guarantee that's what my dad got in trouble for.
Well, guy. Well, here's the thing. Look. We've talked about this before. Capone didn't go down for bootlegging or murder, and he would have tax evasion. You know what I mean? So no matter what. Now this isn't right. Dice was actually let him out of prison because he went crazy already.
Shout out to the syphilis.
Jesus.
He was in prison in Philly.
And then Florida. So anyway, but again, it just allows you to be more of a normal business. Like, hey, I can, especially all this safety equipment, all these normal things that people can write off, because that for a lot of people is the difference in operating or not operating, right? So it does make these operators have a better shot at it. But again, this is just, a little bit. Now, supposedly they've even talked about giving them some back pay, which, boy, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Right. Heard that yarn before.
I wouldn't count my chickens before they hatch on that one, but supposedly they're talking about it. Don't make your bets yet. And then, it also opens an expedited federal registration pathway, which is that whole segment 2 conversation. So that's about this 60-day window and everything. So it's basically like,
talk about expedited, bro.
Well, very much so. And like, dude, in like big numbers, because they realized right away, like, oh crap, we got to sign up like immediately. It's essentially. It's weird because it's like, well, you better do it and you better do it now. And you really don't even have any time to think about it. Go ahead and do it. Sign up. And it's like, and then do it through PayPal. What the hell? Anyway. So this invoked treaty compliance authority that we mentioned is the same kind of the same kind of move used. Geez, I'm stumbling all over the place today. Back in 2018 to schedule certain FDA-approved CBD products.
Yeah.
Right? So, in other words, it is a known lever, if you will. The reason you see CBD products in Walgreens, in these places, in drinks and all these things, is because of the same kind of act. So it's been used before. Yeah. It's not new. I had just never heard of it. Again, it's legal mumbo jumbo, right?
Yep.
But because the U.S. has to still abide by that single convention, what does that mean?
Well, it means the Fed technically have to be the sole purchaser of the crop.
That's where it gets weird.
That's where it gets kind of funny, because then
because it can't be like illicit drugs, right? So it can't be supposed illicit users. It's got to go to the federal government to then be resold back.
Well, and the thing about that is manufacturer will set a token price.
Correct.
And the DEA will quote unquote buy it, and it instantly sells it back. Plus
and this is all it's not like it goes there and comes back. This is all in the computer. This is all in the paperwork.
This is how they do things.
And that's not token price either.
But again, and so essentially this crop is owned by the FDA in an FDA approved facility that they could come in whenever they wanted to. This is the way the paperwork works.
Weird.
It's funny though, because I was having this discussion. I was having this discussion with someone the other day, and like tobacco, a lot of the tobacco that you see out there, like it's private people who all grow it.
Sure.
But they sell it to the tobacco companies, so it's it's similar.
But it's the same thing, isn't like even in like a grain elevator, like you're selling it to the local operator, right? You're coming in and dumping a truckload and they're giving you signing your ticket off.
Again, that's why I'm about the ATF and weed, ATF and W. That's why I think the D
holds the bag of arms.
It should
can we do in C? Can we at least do in C and cannabis?
Cannabis, sure.
Here's the thing, though.
ATF and C.
That maybe doesn't have quite the same ring. But here's the thing: it sounds bizarre, and it really is this whole sell and buy back scenario. But what it does is it's a formality to satisfy that.
We can just call it fact.
Well,
firearms,
alcohol, cannabis, tobacco.
Yeah, that's it. We just fixed it.
Damn.
Hey, government, if you're watching,
please.
We know you are.
Can we just switch ATF to fact?
Wow.
And there's no DEA. Yeah, firearms, alcohol, cannabis, tobacco. We did it.
Damn.
We just fixed everything.
You're welcome.
Drop the mic. We're
welcome.
And then you can also tend, harvest, cultivate. You just got that on the brain today.
Yeah, it's just letters on the brain.
Wow. So anyway, getting back to it, gentlemen. Yes, it does sound bizarre, but this dance, this sell and buyback dance, it's merely a formality. It satisfies a treaty, but it's literally not meant to actually affect the supply chain. It never moves. It still goes right from the manufacturer to whatever middleman is there, i.e. a dispensary of sorts, and then it's put to the end user, right?
At that point,
so,
the DEA is really the middleman.
Well, they are.
It's insane.
But here's the thing. It's the virtual middleman. And yes, they are, by the way, Gabe. They're 100%
the middleman.
They're 100% the middleman. But the point is that they're the ghost middleman because it's still, they never touch it, right? But the reason we wanted to mention this is, number one, I didn't know it worked like that. Number two,
I don't think anybody did.
And number two, growers out there, if you are listening as you should be, just know it exists. So this weird like lingo doesn't surprise you at registration. Because what I've heard and I've read about this, like people have read this and go, what the hell? The DA is buying it and selling it back? Fuck no. I mean, didn't understand. This doesn't change.
They're just taking a piece.
This changed nothing on supply and demand and where it goes.
It reminds me of like, hey, I'm in waste management over here. You know? Nothing.
It does not affect how product actually moves, and that's where people got confused, and that's why we wanted to mention it.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, dude, and I think as it progresses, it's going to continue to get more confusing.
Yeah, well, and guess what? It's a checkbox.
Yeah,
it's federal cannabis. It's a checked box.
Yeah,
I hate to say it like that.
Yo, fact.
I hate to say it like that. Like it's just a checkbox that's checked by fact. It's fact checked.
Oh my God. Has this weed been fact checked? It
has been.
Bro.
Stamp, like, God.
Damn
it. Firearms.
All right, I'm contacting our congressman.
Yeah,
this is too good.
Can we just
contact your local congressman, please. Okay. So,
damn.
On to what we really nailed that, boys.
Fact check.
Wow.
I don't even know where to go from this.
Let's talk about what it didn't do.
What it didn't do, which I think this is actually very, very important parts. What did it not do, Gabe?
Well, adult use, as we said, recreational weed is still Schedule 1.
Still Schedule 1.
Everybody pump the brakes. If your product is an FDA approved drug under a state medical license, it didn't move.
Nothing happened.
You know?
And unfortunately, the 280 that we talked about still completely applies to, the lack of you being able to use 280E still applies to Schedule 1 drugs, i.e. recreational cannabis. So it's only medical people that can even take advantage of that.
Didn't touch hemp. Nope. It didn't legalize synthetically derived THC.
Nope.
So none of that stuff. Nope. That all stays Schedule Uno.
No banking reform as well of any kind. Yep. So, the thing is, it's all it is. That schedule change was more, in my mind, was just defining this slice of the market, which, spoiler alert, they're going to continue to define this market. This isn't the end, and I think that's big part of the show is where we're at, where we're going, where we see it going. You know what I mean?
Well, and depending on the market you're in, if you're in Pennsylvania where it's still medical,
right.
If you're in Michigan where it's mixed, if you're in some of these states where they've just kind of abandoned medical and now it's just recreational, it's going to affect you in different ways.
Well, exactly. So let's say you're in Michigan, you use that and that's a great example, right? Okay, you have both. Well, you're going to have 2 sets of books, and it's all of a sudden going to get real weird even. Okay, on some stuff I want to claim 280E, and on the other stuff, and all of a sudden you go, what's adult use and what's not? Because it becomes these key words too, because it's got to be fact checked. Okay.
Yep.
It's got to check these boxes. And so again, it's that distinction is now a federal line. It's not a perceived line. And that's where it can get dangerous, because that line could be, in the way I'm reading things at least, could be interpreted differently by different people, which is really dangerous.
you gotta have the Vicente Cedarbergs. You gotta have the good lawyers on hand.
You know, and here's the way I think about it too. All of a sudden, it went from more of a marketing label. Like I hate to say it like that, guys. I mean, but you know, so many places went from medical into recreational and whatever else. Whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it very much was a marketing label. Like, so, you know what I mean? The reality is, it's like I remember, like, you know, at one place in the fort, it was like literally one side of the bar, because it was an old bar, was medical. You turn around, the other one was recreational. Well, there's really not any difference.
Well,
you know?
Well, the big difference has always been, at least if you're a larger consumer, and first off, you're able to get more, and then the taxes are way cheaper. Yes. So then that was the caveat.
But again, there becomes more still more of a marketing thing than it is, you know, really a federal line. And now it's a federal line, and that's what's dangerous.
You know, I think too, a lot of people just liked a lot of people who were genuinely using it for medical liked it on that medical line.
I don't disagree.
It's more so it's just become kind of cumbersome to get the card when, quite frankly, in so many places like Colorado, Michigan, the rest of that,
where we all started.
And recreational is so cheap.
Right.
You're just not saving when you could go buy ounces for, you know, arguably $50 in some places.
You're lying.
How much money are you really saving by getting your medical?
How much are you really saving? Well, let's move on a little bit and let's talk about the registration scamble, as we were calling it.
Scamble.
Josh, if you can move it up, please.
Yes.
So the registration scamble, and really what this is talking about is that from late April, right, when the order was published, it basically said it started a 60-day clock, a countdown clock.
Invisible clock.
Yes, this invisible clock. And what that was for current state licensed medical operators to file a federal DEA registration, as we mentioned, which can be a little bit scary, especially when you're reading about this whole buyback scenario. Freaked out a lot of people. There's no doubt about it. But the reality is, within the first 72 hours of it, over 400 people actually signed up. And you got to understand, that may not sound like a ton, but really that's in the first 72 hours of a 60-day countdown. So one, that tells me there's plenty of people that have been out there that have been waiting for this pathway, right? And waiting for an ability to, they feel like, gain whatever kind of advantage, whether it's, you know, taxation advantage or be the first to it or whatever. And so people, man, they started doing it right away.
Simple math. It's 8 per state. Like right off the rip. And if you think about it, 8 per state is actually quite a bit first day.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
No,
when you break it down like that pretty quick.
Want to get fact checked? It's 8 per state.
Yeah, that's right. 400 divided by 50 is 8. We did that.
So here's the thing.
We did that.
and Josh, you move it up again, please. Here's what it does too, specifically. The reason everybody's racing it, because what it does is it locks you in a guaranteed review timeline. Meaning they're saying, if you do it in this timeline, we're going to fast track you. We're actually going to review you, and we're going to allow you to not stop doing anything that you're currently doing. There's no hiccup. That's why people are going so fast. And they're basically threatening you that if you don't do it in that, you won't be fast tracked and you're going to be put in the slow lane, and very well will be forced to stop operations either permanently or, in best case scenario, temporarily while you're getting licensed.
Price of weed's going back up, kids. I've been saying that for a while.
So this could be happening. So if we do the math, and it's not too hard on a calendar, and we look at late April, that April 22nd, and put it into 60 days, you know, that says the back half of June. Here's where it gets weird. Most of the careful legal write-ups actually put it around June 26th, 27th. There's a real actually date confusion.
There's date around. Imagine that with this administration. Shit. Date confusion. June 22nd is what they're talking about.
Well, some people say June 22nd, and I don't even know necessarily where the 29th came out, but you know, it's somewhere in the back half of June.
So just best case scenario.
Well, I'd say I'd say the safe window is June 22nd, April 22nd to June 22nd. That's what I do. But the reality is, in theory, if you don't hit by 11:59 on that day, you are in
SOL,
the slow lane. So, but what I would also tell you is talk to your Federal Register. You know what I mean? And probably your own attorney would be great to do. So don't just take it off a post or Instagram or even the Jug Dealers Podcast.
You know, We are not legal representation.
Yeah, we are.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. So this guaranteed processing timeline, the agency's target is actually clear in window applications within 6 months. And again, you don't have to stop operating.
To think that
that's what's wild to me.
Like it's
so this whole thing,
and
Attorney General signs it off, happens overnight based on this treaty compliance.
I mean, the reason we put this episode out too is because I can tell you as I started putting this together that like I had no idea that this was happening as quickly as it was.
No, I honestly, Gabe, until you came to me and you're like, dude, it's like, and I knew, it's like, I'd heard kind of some rumblings and people said in this month, I was like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, it's like November.
People are going to watch this episode. They're going to like, we got 2 weeks.
They're like,
dude.
no, this is not, you're talking about something totally different, right? So yeah, obviously here's the deal too. You're in a safe harbor of sorts, right? Again, you can keep operating, and that's very important. But apparently you're using this DEA form 225, which is an expedited state license pathway. So I'm assuming a new form. Well, that you attach your existing state medical license as the evidence of authorization. So in other words, that's how you're going to displace. You're going to display this DEA form however you're supposed to display it from state to state. Again, I don't know how the hell they do it anymore.
You got to understand that like it really only affects the medical provider. Like as far as I know, if you're a recreational provider in the state, you can't even apply.
No. This is just for medical. This is 100% just for medical.
And so again, there's a lot of ambiguity behind this.
But get this. This order apparently carries a ton of weight because what it does in the way it's written is that it guarantees you the ability to operate unless it specifically goes against public interest. So I'm guessing that over time, maybe a municipality could vote it out, right? Vote out medical. We've seen that happen. Vote in, vote out medical. Or if it somehow goes against the treaty, which is the only reason that this is able to operate. So in other words, my guess is if they weren't selling it to the DEA and directly back, that would be going against the treaty because that's the whole premise that we're trying to say. So anyway,
not lawyers.
We're not lawyers.
We're not lawyers.
But that's I found very interesting. So, okay, so you do in that 60-day window and you have Form 225, you are guaranteed operation, which I actually think is great, just surprising to me. You know, if you've done everything right and you've jumped through the hoops, you're damn right you should be able to keep operating.
What about the fees? What are we hearing about the fees?
I mean, we're hearing anything up around high 700, something like that. This is just, again, this is what we've seen and what we're able to research. But I mean, yeah.
Pay to play, baby.
Pay to play. I mean,
pay to play.
I'm surprised it's not 1,500. You know what I mean? But it sounds like that annual fees will actually scale up for manufacturers and distributors. So again, let's just say this, they're going to get you on some money. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So if you have already filed 225, anybody's listening out there, the agency says it will contact you for processing. Please do not reapply.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
Gabe, why don't you talk a little bit about the dual license trap, especially operating
this is the one
in Michigan like yard. This is
nobody's talking about. Here's the sleeper. Tons of operators, especially in adult use states, like similar to Michigan, hold both medical and adult use licenses under one single roof.
Yeah.
And Colorado,
Same.
Michigan, there's tons of these states where you have that. After this order, the single businesses is straddling two different federal regimes, so here you are.
Don't like doing that.
Here you are playing, essentially in the government's eyes, black market and white market, the medical activity in Schedule 3 with the register of 280E relief.
Well, you got 280E relief.
And rec activity is still Schedule 1, Again, like you were saying,
relief and exposure.
Like
That's crazy.
If I'm putting improvements into my building,
what does that go under?
Where does it go under?
Yeah.
The practical takeaway on all this is sit down with your attorney. Figure out that compliance / accounting.
Well, and it seems like an accounting and
like you were saying, really going to need to have 2 sets of books. So that you're fully accounting for. Yeah, how you're breaking that up, plain and simple.
Yeah. And reality is you're going to need to think about physical record separation. It's going to be a big deal.
Here's the deal. Most of us who've been doing this for a long time, especially with metric, you have to keep it separate anyway. There is a
That's
point.
a good point.
There is a point.
That's
where
a good point.
There is a point where you can move medical over to the recreational side, but you just
I find where it gets the stickier is this 280 relief versus 280 exposure.
Yeah,
right.
And that's where you got to be careful with what. But I think
we used 8 rolls of toilet paper, and that one used 16. Like I don't even like. And maybe it won't get that wacky.
You know what? I mean, considering how much I deal with some of that minutia on the numbers, there's ways to do it. You really could break out how many gallons you're giving per plant per cycle and figure out.
It's done, and it might have to be done. But I also think that people are assuming that this is just step one.
It's not this. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through. There's going to be a lot of things that a lot of people still haven't even thought of yet on ways to deal with, especially like you're saying, with product that commingles. I think if you have a medical facility and you just have a medical or you just have a rec facility, you have a pretty good pathway to where you're looking forward.
Yeah,
but for facilities where it's commingled, there's.
So again, now the obvious question and the very obvious segment 3 is the road ahead.
What does the road ahead look like?
What is it? And we know medical side moved. The obvious question, and what I think probably the entire audience would be asking,
when does the rest of it move?
Yeah. And will the rest of it ever move? You know what I mean? So when does adult use get its turn? And that's where the June 29th hearing comes in. I think that's where people are getting stuff confused. They see June 29th, including myself when I first started reading in this, thinking that June 29th is the whole fast track thing. But really June 29th is when the adult use conversation starts. They're actually different.
Well,
right?
And it's interesting too, because you have states like Colorado where it's written into our state constitution, and anything happens, our state has to go after the Fed. There's other states like that. So it's going to be real interesting to see how they attack. I think everybody's kind of seen medical.
I think people
we're just going to see how this plays out.
Yes.
But as rec, because again, it's, states like Michigan, even here in Colorado, it's $1 billion worth of economy.
It's still a lot of money. But here's what I find interesting too, and it's really not interesting because, by the way, there is no coincidences. But as that registration window closes, that very same week, which we're saying it's about the 22nd ish, right? That very same week, even if it's not the same day, that very same week, the conversation starts. Very specifically, the conversation starts to say, what do we do with all marijuana products?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the heck that even means for November, which is the seed thing, which is a whole different thing. And does this change everything? I don't know, folks. We'll have to think about that. Maybe a whole other show on that. I was
at the lab yesterday. I was talking to Jesse. Jesse has a lot of insight on that because he's actually on the compassionate care committee, who's going to be making the rules and stuff. So I was actually talking about getting him in to discuss this same topic because he actually has some pretty good insight.
Well, and that's something I'd love to see. But again, specifically, the one thing we do know is June 29th, the conversation. And by the way, conversation started, not conversation ending, on what to do with the rest of it. They're specifically not saying what to do with the rest of it, but to specifically bring it all to Schedule 3, because everybody also understands on some level this is not practical moving forward forever. This is not practical.
Can we say, based on history, that there's a good chance that maybe they push it back again?
I would say
wouldn't surprise you.
I would say that's I'd say that's very possible. It's interesting
history
too.
They have,
but history they absolutely
have. The fact they've locked everybody in like that says that most likely they're pushing forward. But historically,
I personally think, and they keep throwing around this word. It's not the word we're using. They're throwing this fast track word around. Okay, so I also look at it, and what's happened so fast with that Attorney General snap of the fingers with this all of a sudden going off the treaty instead of this long process. I go, or maybe they do realize that it's completely impossible and that it has to be changed sooner than later. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking positive, but historically speaking, they've always pushed it back. There's no doubt. You know what I mean? So let's get into it a little bit more. Let's talk about what that realistic timeline is. We talked about June 29th. That is where the conversation for the broader rescheduling happens, specifically rec.
Scheduled to run a couple weeks as far as I can tell, right?
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? And the reason I guess it's existing in this form is supposedly there was an old Biden era hearing process.
Yeah,
I guess
they had a process they were going to do. It was that March of that year, and then literally They
didn't.
or actually, it wasn't March. It was when we were supposed to be going. When we were at BizCon.
Oh, that's right.
If you remember when we were at BizCon, and they just shut it down.
Right. So, but again, going back to this fast track, that is literally the framing. They keep saying this fast track, and it traces back to a December executive order pushing the most expeditious lawful process. So they have said in the wording and in the law that like it's supposed to happen fast. Again, what do I think? I can't believe it happened this fast. I mean, I was blown away. I can't believe we're having this episode on it right now.
Yeah.
But that is why we're seeing actual hard dates instead of open-ended delays, which open-ended delays is always how we've seen it. So I guess the answer to that, Gabe, is it's being done under a different premise, you know what I mean? And under different precedents, I should say, or legal precedents, right? Again, not lawyers here. The important nuance being a hearing status is the beginning.
Yeah, just the beginning of it.
Not the end. So you have evidence cross-examination, different briefings, you know, that can stretch out for months. You know, they're thinking, you know, I mean, literally months after the hearing date, who knows? Could be end of the year.
Let's see the hearings start.
Let's start there.
Let's see the hearings start.
Let's not, count these chickens before they hatch. So there's always a prohibition side. Talk a little bit about that.
You know, it's Smart Approaches to Marijuana has said it plans to challenge the April order in court and to fight aggressively in the
actual hearing. Yep.
Same opposition that helped jam up the last process.
You know what they're doing. I mean, so again, to your point, Gabe. Let's get to the hearing because that, shit could get thrown off, I suppose. Of course, on the reform side, which I did mention before, and no surprises there, normal filed to get a seat at the table as an interested party, as they always do, arguing the record is incomplete if adult consumers aren't represented, which I tend to agree with, and notably making the point that Schedule 3 isn't the finish line anyway. So even there, that they've always been deschedule, not reschedule, so they're basically saying that's one step at a time, right? Get it to 3 before you get it going in theory, but who knows?
We all have different ideas on how we think to get there, but
we're all on team deschedule, but how realistic?
I think there's a lot of people who are like, hey, one step at a time, we get here, maybe we can.
Even those sounds you guys made, it's like, what do we all want? Descheduling. Are we going to get it?
What I do find worth mentioning is a bit of the backstory. There was a prior process. Been doing this all day. That was partly derailed over allegations of improper back channel contact between agency leadership and anti-rescheduling advocates. And then the chief administrative law judge retired.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Sounds familiar.
Which left no judge to even hear for a stretch because the seat was vacant. So that was a mess. Assuming they're trying not to repeat that.
A good look.
Not a good look.
I'm just going to say.
So, not a good look.
Yeah, and historically, you see that kind of, when I came to Maryland and started in the medical program there, like, oh man, there was so many problems with people just getting paid for seats, and part of what Eugene was involved with, not involved with directly, but part of people not getting buildings there was because people paid their way through.
Yep. And obviously there's a whole speed and litigation game that goes on with this stuff. And I mean, it's, the legal mumbo jumbo, heebie jeebie bullshit that's, always seems to ruin a good time. But anyway, the realistic timeline, absolute best case scenario for broader rescheduling would be end of the year. But let's be real. Probably not.
And real case, court challenges, injunction, maybe a congressional review could easily push that into 2027. No problem.
Easily. Don't be surprised by 2028, folks.
Don't plan your business around the best case scenario. I don't care how good it sounds with those 400 people.
Now, and we would be remiss by not mentioning the other very important date that is on the calendar that actually has nothing to do with this, although funny enough, I thought originally it did.
Yeah.
Turns out it doesn't.
November,
in mid-November, that reshapes the Delta 8 hemp THC world, right? So it's basically a hemp definition change is what's going to be happening. So again, a whole different lever.
Get your seeds now.
Still in the same.
That is the seed.
Get your seeds now.
So
THCA and seeds.
Yeah. So different lever, same season, same vein. Keep it on your calendar, please. So let's finish this off by really letting you know what you must do right now. And if you haven't already, literally do it real fast. If you hold a state medical license, file it in the window. That means yesterday. Do it yesterday, which is today, not tomorrow. What's the best time to plant a tree? Yesterday. What's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. Okay. Right. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the rec question to resolve because it's not going to get resolved right away. The medical relief is real and it is here today. If you're going to stay in this game, you probably better play the game. You played it long enough.
Yep. Next. If you're dual license, make sure, I'm sure you already do, but
split
make sure
that shit.
Don't make sure just your metric is split.
Shit.
Make sure your books are split. You know?
So now, of course, if you're pure adult use, unfortunately for you, nothing has changed yet, but I would still look at things a little bit different, maybe work your books a little bit different to where you're not filing for 280E yet, but maybe even looking at what that could possibly mean for you, hoping that it does come. Make sure you get your facts from primary resources. That does not necessarily mean, and we will resolve ourselves
not a primary resource.
Any kind of
absolve ourselves
legal
from any
repercussions
legal
here.
Actions.
Don't listen to the Jug Dealers. We're just giving you rough dates, what we think. Talk to your own attorney, please, and don't make six-figure decisions.
But you honor the Jug Dealers podcast that it was on the 29th.
So, I mean,
I heard it from the Jug Dealers.
Please don't do that. Can you move that up a little bit? I think we have a little more down there. Okay, let's also get a very in plain English recap on what has actually happened. So medical cannabis today is Schedule 3. Rec is still Schedule 1. Rec registration window closes the back half of June. The broader hearing kicks off June 29th for everything else. Late 2026 at best, really probably 2027. What's the other action item we're still waiting on?
If you are a licensed medical operator and you haven't filed, file this week.
File
today.
Immediately. This is the fastest cannabis poly that we have ever seen move federally. Keep that in mind. That's why we're all a little bit blown away here. And that speed, unfortunately, does cut in two different directions and in two different ways. Opportunity, but it also creates chaos. So be smart, think about it, but also understand you ain't got a lot of time to sit there and wait. I hope this helped anybody else out there. I hope this helped quiet a little bit of the noise, even though I think you and I got a little more excited on this episode than we have a little while. Just because
that's because shit is going. It's like, oh my happening. God, you're like, damn.
I know, we go decades without nothing, and we get two. That's why you're confused. 2 in a year?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for listening in. We appreciate it. Until next time, from the Jug Den.
Peace.